Okay, so today I want to talk about why mainstream media sucks, and it's going to be their coverage of the rail strike, the impending rail strike that's such a nightmare. I say let the strike happen, because these workers need sick days, and they're obviously insanely important to our economy. Now, let me go into a clip that shows CNN's coverage of this shit. Also, I need to say, mainstream media like CNN really sucks. Supposed to be some intermediary for the common person. And they're just shitting on the fucking rail workers. But Fox, Newsmax, and OAN are still way fucking worse. They're just domestic terrorist farms right now. But I'm also going to be going to an article that talks about this rail strike and fuck mainstream news.
A rail strike is one of the most disruptive and expensive things that can happen to an economy.
A rail shutdown or strike would disrupt supply chains.
A strike means food prices could skyrocket.
Many experts are saying would be an economic catastrophe.
That could mean a big shortage and massive price hikes. Even gas prices could increase.
And it also could cost the economy $1 billion within the first week.
That would cripple the economy.
I'm not setting aside the concerns of your members, but are you and your members willing to stop the rails, in effect, and accept those costs to the U.S. economy?
Exactly what you're doing, you wheezy little fuck.
Do you believe a strike is worth it if it cripples the U.S. economy and costs up to $2 billion a day?
More than $2 billion per day.
Is it worth it?
And on top of all of that, the holidays are right around the corner.
It's a little less than a month right before Christmas here.
Especially right before the holidays.
President Biden warning if that happened, it would devastate the economy if we had a strike like that. So joining me now to talk about this and a lot more is Bank of America. It's Brian Moynihan, chairman and CEO, one of the biggest banks in the world.
Fuck all y'all at CNN. Rail companies been making record-breaking profits, and rail workers have 0 guaranteed sick days. Fucking 0, CNN. And just the way they treat the workers while they bring them on is so fucking inhuman. They're just constantly putting the weight of the economy on. Why aren't you putting that on the fucking rail companies, the carriers, the people who aren't giving them fucking paid sick leave? And you bring on fucking Bank of America CEO and treat him like a fucking king. You can go watch that. I already have. It's fucking gross. Treating this fucking rich ass motherfucker like a goddamn king. And you bring on these workers and you're just are you sure you want to fuck up everyone's holiday? I mean, I know you'll have no paid sick leaves, and fucking everyone in CNN, I bet, has paid fucking sick leaves. But could you guys just go back to the grind and not want to be humans anymore and just be a cog? Please? Fuck you, CNN. I'm going to read from an article now. Shit. I can't remember the name, but I'll get to it whenever I start reading. Okay, so this article is from A More Perfect Union. It's about the rail strike by the numbers. Railroad profits are soaring at workers' expense. This will be linked in the description. Okay. America's largest railroads have transformed a once staid industry into a profit-generating machine on par with the world's richest technology companies, even as they drove down conditions for the tens of thousands of workers they employ. A More Perfect Union analysis of financial filings of major U.S. railroads found that their windfall profits have come at the direct expense of their workforce. In the past 2 decades, operating profit margins nearly tripled for the major carriers, while the percentage of revenue they spent on labor sunk by double digits. Tens of thousands of American rail workers have gone 3 years without a raise amid a contract dispute with the major carriers. The industry has rejected their calls for sick leave, guaranteed time off, and a range of other improvements, even as their profit margins swelled. In 2001, leading American freight carriers CSX, KC Southern, Norfolk Southern, and Union Pacific earned average operating margins of about 15%. That means after accounting for all the costs associated with running a railroad, including money spent on compensation and benefits, for every $100 of revenue, investors were left with $15 of profit. 20 years later, that number has skyrocketed to over 41. During that same time period, the percentage of revenue spent on labor saw a sudden and drastic decline. In 2001, the four railroads spent about $8.7 billion on compensation and benefits to generate $25.6 billion. In 2021, the company spent 10% more on labor, but brought in nearly double the amount of revenue. It's insane to think about, said Matt Russell, a popular investing commentator and former transportation analyst, earlier this year. Technology and more efficient diesel engines have made the rail industry more efficient, but the reduction in headcount has an outsized impact on operating profit margins. According to the Presidential Emergency Board, which analyzed the dispute, the carriers maintain that capital investment and risks are the reasons for their profits, not any contributions by labor. As the graph below demonstrates, there's a clear inverse relationship between a company's profit margin relative to the amount it spends on labor. And there's this fucking graph, which is their operating income margin going up since 2005, and compensation and benefits percent of revenue going the fuck down. And I'm going to skip this. In 2000, Union Pacific employed 50,000 people and generated $11.8 billion. Today, Union Pacific employs almost 18,000 less, but manages to earn 85% more in revenue each year. The situation is common across the industry. Trains that were once staffed with 5 workers are now staffed with 2, and carriers hope to cut that to 1. Workers themselves are caught in a constant flux. Nearly all employees are on call virtually around the clock, expected to report to work within 90 minutes for shifts that can last nearly 80 hours. That does not include the time that you're sitting at the away-from-home terminal. You might be away from home subject to the railroad, not with your family, for 120 hours in a week, said rail worker Michael Paul Lindsay. Now, I'm going to read an article in The Intelligencer by Eric Levitz called Why America's Railroads Refuse to Give Their Workers Paid Leave. Talking about PSR, real quick. Why do these rail barons hate paid leave so much? Why would a company have no problem handing out 24% raises, $1,000 bonuses, and caps on healthcare premiums, but draw the line in providing a benefit as standard and ubiquitous throughout modern industry as paid sick days? The answer, in short, is PSR, or Precision Scheduled Railroading. PSR is an operational strategy that aims to minimize ratio between railroads' operating costs and their revenue through various cost-cutting and ostensibly efficiency-increasing measures. The basic idea is to transport more freight using fewer workers and rail cars. All this has worked out poorly for rail workers writ large. Over the past 6 years, America's major freight carriers have shed 30% of their employees. To compensate for this lost staffing, remaining workers must tolerate irregular schedules and little time off since the railroads don't have much spare labor capacity left. So at the end of the day, rail carriers are fucking their workers for profit. And they deserve at least 7 paid sick days. And now I'm going to cut to Eric Bolling on Newsmax, that great fucking place, to show you how it can be even worse than CNN.
Well, the bottom line is that's all sounds well and fine, but the railroads are making record profits and they post it all the time. So we're asking for literally...
Stop that. I can't do that. I can't do that, Eric. They're allowed to. That's the American way. That's constitutional. They're not doing anything wrong. You're allowed to make a profit.
Fuck it is, Eric. Where the hell in the Constitution does it say you can grind your workers into a fucking paste for profit?
Even if it's a lot of profit.
Literally, I'm not opposed to them making a profit, but we're literally asking for pennies on the dollar. That's what we're asking for.
And if enough people walk off the job, Eric, if enough people walk off the job and they can't move the stuff from point A to point B, they're going to have to do it on their own. But that's going to be their choice to increase your salary and your benefits if they want to. Bill, you got 30 seconds.
Thank you. The real issue here is treating people fairly. Railroads don't even, when they want to fire somebody, they don't have to have 50-50 on their evidence. All they got to have is one official come in and say there's a rule violation. why the public
Come on,
should
Bill.
care.
Come on, Bill. Bill, come on.
You
came onto a show. I'm a libertarian. I come from the business world. I'm a free marketeer. You come on the show and you're trying to convince me and my audience, who I believe sides with a lot of my views, I hope they do, that you're not allowed to fire someone if you want to, if you own the business. That's insanity.
It should be fair, though. It should be.
That's the direction.
You don't fire somebody in a kangaroo court, Eric. That's the problem.
Hey, Bill, you fire someone if you can't make ends meet. If they're
they do a whole fuck ton more than make ends meet, Eric. And that's the problem here. Is they'll just keep wanting the profit more and more and more and more and cut more workers and then act like nothing bad could happen. I don't know, like these workers need paid sick leaves. And actually, like the rail workers, I've been holding off on like pushing for this till now. And we've been through so much pandemic. And now the rail workers are finally like, we need paid sick leave. And people are pissed. And they have had zero during this entire pandemic.
If the union says all of our workers, like Eric Mallow and the rest of them, need to be 20% higher, and they can't afford to do business, or they don't want to do business at that margin, they have the right to fire people in America until someone like you guys, no offense, get your hold on the American free market capitalist system and bring it down. But boy, am I thrilled that we're still holding on to it. I like you guys, like the discussion. We'll bring you both back again soon. I ran out of time.
Fuck Eric Bowling. But on a bigger scale, Biden. These workers don't get paid sick leave. You fucked up. You lose voters because of this. No shit. You should lose voters when you fuck up. Why Trump isn't president right now? Because he fucked up so fucking bad. I got a lot of places I go to for news, but I'll give you two real quick that I trust a lot. And that's the Majority Report and Internet Today. I will link them below, and I'm Brandon, and hope you'll have a good day.